Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into an ancient text that, believe it or not, has this incredible, almost modern-day toolkit for dealing with crisis. The Book of Lamentations. It's not just a bunch of sad poems. It's actually a super-structured, psychological roadmap for how to get through overwhelming loss.
When we're faced with a real tragedy, the grief can be just paralyzing. It feels like the whole world just stops, and your brain just can't catch up. You feel frozen, kind of zombie-like, right? So the question is, how do you move on from that? How do you even start to process something that feels unthinkable? Well, this ancient text suggests there's a way through the pain, but it's a process.
So in this explainer, we're going to walk through the 5 key parts of that process. We'll look at the 2 essential sides of grief, the special language they use to talk about it, this hidden structure that holds it all together, how it actually maps onto modern ideas about grieving, and finally, what it really means to hit a turning point. Okay, let's dive right in. The first huge idea here is that to get through a crisis, you've got to deal with 2 totally separate but equally important human needs. Lamentations gets that you need both a secular and a spiritual way to let it all out. Think of it like this. The secular part is like singing the blues. It's just you working through your grief psychologically, talking about your troubles, no mention of God or anything like that. But then there's this other crucial part, singing the spirituals, and that's about turning to a higher power in prayer, really grappling with the crisis on a spiritual level. The whole point is, to truly heal, you got to engage both parts of your experience. Now, this whole spiritual approach to grief, it didn't just pop up out of nowhere. The people who wrote Lamentations were pulling from this really deep, powerful tradition of prayer that was already a huge part of their culture.
And this chart just shows you how central this was. Out of the 150 Psalms, which was basically their ancient hymn book, a whopping 65 of them are laments. That is nearly half. So these weren't just happy-clappy songs of praise. A huge chunk of them were prayers about problems, about suffering, about crisis. It was a language they were totally fluent in.
In this language had a few different dialects, you could say. You had prayers of grievance, where you basically just complained to God that life isn't fair. You had prayers of guilt and repentance, where you admit you messed up and try to fix things. But then there was this third, kind of defiant tradition, prayers of challenge and protest. This is where you directly question and even complain to God about God. The scholar Dr. Leslie Allen tells this incredibly personal story. When he was just 11 years old, his mother died, very suddenly. And after hearing the news, he went to his room, and his first gut reaction was to punch his pillow and just scream, "God, why did you have to let her die?" He says he didn't know anything about these psalms of challenge back then. It was just a raw human protest. This tradition makes room for exactly that kind of anger and confusion. But there's a hidden structure inside these poems of grief that is so key to understanding them. It's something that's almost always invisible when we read them in English, but it's what gives these laments so much of their power. You see, the first 4 chapters of Lamentations are written as acrostics. What that means is that each verse, or each line, starts with the next letter of the Hebrew alphabet. It works its way all the way from A to Z, or to be precise, from Aleph to Tav. To get a feel for what this is like, think of that old song. A, you're adorable. B, you're so beautiful. It uses that ABC structure to show that his love is total. The form itself is part of the message.
Well, Lamentations uses that exact same trick for the complete opposite emotion. The A to Z structure is meant to express the totality of the grief. The idea is that the suffering is all-encompassing. It's covered every possible angle, from beginning to end, from A to Z.
So, the really crucial thing to get here is that this isn't just a clever literary gimmick. As the writer Eugene Peterson puts it, the acrostic is basically a container for chaos. It organizes what feels unthinkable. It makes you patiently go through every single detail of the pain, step by step, giving it a name. It provides a structure so you can take the suffering seriously.
And what's amazing is that this ancient, super-structured way of looking at sorrow, it lines up almost perfectly with our modern psychological understanding of how people actually process trauma.
So grief often starts with that numb shock and denial, right? That feeling of this can't be real. Lamentations was designed to break that deadlock. It then walks you through recollecting and reliving what happened, making space for those emotional outbursts. It forces you to articulate what you've lost, and then, finally, it pushes you to evaluate what happened and try to find some kind of meaning in all the wreckage.
The poet Ruth Feldman just captures this so beautifully. Building an arc of words is how you survive the flood of loss. You have to tell the story, you have to express the pain, you have to spell out what's gone. In a way, Lamentations is like a pre-built arc for an entire community to get in and ride out the flood together.
So what's the goal of this whole intense, structured A to Z process? It's not about finding some neat, tidy resolution. It's about something much more realistic and, I think, a lot more hopeful.
We talk a lot about getting closure, but that can be a really misleading idea. The goal here isn't closure, not if that means forgetting or acting like the loss never happened. The real goal is to reach a turning point.
A turning point is that moment when the pain is still there, and maybe it's just as bad as ever, but you can start to imagine a positive future again. It's that first tiny glimmer of light. You see, the Book of Lamentations doesn't end with everything all wrapped up in a bow. The suffering is still very real, but it ends with the community turning its face toward the future, holding on to this fragile hope that a new day just might be possible.
And that leaves us with a really powerful question for our own lives. When we're faced with the floods of loss that are just part of life, what structures, what traditions, what arc of words do we build to help us make sense of our pain and eventually start to see a new dawn?